I'm Alan Sanz. I'm the chef at Mirate and Daisy in LA. I was born and raised in Mexico City. And my family from my mom's side, they are from Oaxaca. And from my dad's side, they are my grandmother from Michoacan and my grandpa from Argentina. I'm not the chef that has like this romantic story with growing up with the grandma making the food in the kitchen and any of that, but I have a lot of memories eating their food. I wasn't interested in the process of it, but yes, on the final result that I was eating, I love that. On my mom's side, my grandma, she's a great cook. I love everything that she makes, and I remember when we were to the town, she always have an open fire kitchen in the backyard. So that's something that was like still like in my memories, and I try to replicate some of those flavors in my food. One of the first recipes that I started cooking, it was my aunt's bananas cake. She was always making that cake. It was her signature dish that she was bringing it. So at some point I asked her for the recipe, and I started modifying that recipe a little bit, like adding more ingredients or like switching stuff, because I was already in the school, in the culinary school. So I was kind of like trying to figure out, be a little bit more creative. But yeah, the banana bread or the banana cake is one of the first recipes. I always say that before to be a good chef, you have to be a good eater. And I think that was me since I was a little kid. I never was a kid that was picky or that didn't like anything. Also, like my grandparents from my mom's side, from Oaxaca, they influence a lot, forcing us a little bit to eat everything before then you leave the table. So I think that helps a lot. I never was interested in the actual like cooking process. It was more in the eating. But when I was a teenager, I was a little bit rebellious, in a good way though, never been in trouble, but I was a little bit rebellious, and I was super into the music. I thought I will be a rock star one day or something like that. My daddy was like, okay, you need to find a job, you're not gonna go to school. So the only job that I found, it was as a dishwasher, and I started falling in love with the kitchen, because I noticed that the guys that they were in the fire and cooking, they had a lot of fun, like the jokes and like, I don't know, it's a different vibe being in the line. So I want to be there having fun with them. So I asked the chef, like, can I start like in the kitchen? And he was like, yeah, but you still need to wash dishes. And I was like, sure. But I was 17 years old. I had all the energy in the world. So it was easy for me doing both until he hired somebody else to do the dishes, and I was completely in charge of the cold station. And then from there I started like going through different lines, learning. And then one day he fired me. He said like, you need to go to the culinary school. And then I was kind of like upset, but at the same time I was like, yeah, I think this is what I want to do in my life. So I went back to my parents' house, and I say like, hey, I know what I want to be in this life. I want to be a chef. So I found myself a couple years after going back to Mexico, because I was working in Europe, and then I realized that all my style and my way to cook, it was like super, either what I learned in the school, in the culinary school, or all my experiences working in Argentina and Chile and Spain and France. It was super like with all the European bases, but I was missing those like Latin flavors and the way that we eat. Of course, I know how to eat it because that was my entire life, and with my grandma in Oaxaca and the holidays in the town and everything, it's a lot of food, but I didn't know how to cook it. And I realized that it was time for me to go back and start learning from all the cocineras tradicionales, or this like ancestor like recipes and the techniques and the endemic and native ingredients, how to use it. So I went back to Oaxaca, and I moved there for a couple of years and just doing research, learning more about the culture, the techniques. And then I started like building my style with all the Mexican traditions and ingredients and everything, with also all the techniques that I was learning in other countries. In order to have tradition, you have to understand like where everything comes from. Without tradition, there is not an evolution, and everything that doesn't have an evolution dies. It is super important understanding like where the ingredient comes from, how the people use it, or where or when they use it, and from there start understanding that and have the respect of the ingredient or the recipe or the tradition or everything that goes around to that ingredient or that dish. And to be able to have an evolution or to be able to propose something new, you have no matter what understand the tradition of it. Well, the story that I would love to tell to everybody through my food, it's about my personal story. It's about my journey since I started in this industry and the specific moments that I had in my life that I want to be something really cool. But for the moment, just like keep going with Mirate and Daisy and try to be one of the best ones.